If digging through your DJ library feels like searching for a needle in a haystack, you're probably making easily avoidable mistakes. I had 60 DJs from my newsletter willingly hand over their libraries for a public roasting, and I couldn't believe how often the same 3 problems popped up. In this video, I'll break down 3 DJ libraries from real viewers, point out where they've messed up, and show you exactly how I'd fix them. Then you can learn from their mistakes and turn your library into an asset, not a frustration. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to my 3 victims today. They did actually give me permission to do this. And if you're interested in hearing about any future roasts, you can sign up to the newsletter in the description. Alright, let's get into this. First up we have Wolf, who's been DJing for 10 years, probably since he left Gladiators. And they've been struggling with an issue I know all too well. I have a terrible memory, so tagging is my only hope for easily finding tracks when I play. However, I'm struggling because my current system leads me to choose the same songs repeatedly, making my sets feel too similar. Alright, let's take a look at Wolf's library and see what we've got. Okay, 17,550 tracks. No wonder Wolf has got no idea what tracks are in here. It looks like there's some rating tagging going on in here, so I'm going to try and use that as a proxy to see which tracks have actually been looked at. I'll just sort by the rating field here and then grab everything that doesn't have a rating on it. What the fuck is that? Alright, let's create a new playlist. Then we'll add all these tracks there. And see how many we got. Nearly 11,000 tracks with no rating. Let's have a little dig into these subfolders. I want to have a little poke in this to organize one. 3,300 tracks. This playlist is like a procrastination museum. Tracks in here have a better chance of being discovered by archaeologists than ever making it into a set. Let me give Wolf the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he plays tracks without fully prepping them. What I'm going to do is make an intelligent playlist which captures all tracks with a play count of 0. 13,620. Wolfie, Wolfie, Wolfie. I think it's safe to say there's a lot of dead weight in this library. There's a repeatable 5-step system behind every great DJ library. Crate digging, curation, categorization, creativity, and care. I think Wolf's biggest issue is in step 2, curation. There's stuff getting into this library that never should have made it past the front door, and that's making it harder for Wolf to find and remember tracks in the moment, leading to them getting trapped in the same patterns over and over. I noticed Wolf's got a few playlists in here called Music from Other. So we got about 1,200 tracks. This guy didn't send much. And by the look of it, none of these have been touched. Now, I think many of us have been in this boat at some point. Maybe you're starting out and you don't actually have that many tunes yet, or you've got a friend who offers to give you their whole backlog of regrets. You download gigs and gigs worth of tracks and just dump them in your library. But here's the truth. You might play or prep a couple of them, but psychologically you never think of them as yours. They're just squatters in your library gathering dust, and they don't just bloat your library, they can dilute your sound, and in Wolf's case make it harder to remember what's actually in your library in the first place. My first tip for Wolf is to just delete all these tunes people have sent him, especially Badadan. When you're struggling to prep your own tracks, the last thing you need to be doing is prepping someone else's as well. Wolf also mentioned he's playing the same old tracks over and over. To double check, I want to see if anything Wolf's added in the last year has actually been played. Let me set up a quick intelligent playlist that will capture anything with a date added in the last 12 months. Then I want to enable DJ play count and sort by that. So here's all the 0 play tracks. We have to get pretty far down before we even see a 1 play. From this, I think we can conclude that the new blood that's being added to the library is never seeing the light of day. The fact there's over 3,000 tracks in the 2 organised playlists shows there's not a robust curation process going on here. I don't know about you, but if my brain sees 3,000 tracks, it's already given up. So what can Wolf do to make sure he's actually dealing with these tracks and processing them? Think of it like clearing out your freezer. I've got some okra in mine that's been in there since World War I. In theory, I could use it to make a meal, but it's never top of mind. And the reality is, I always choose stuff I've added more recently. So let's just clear the space. Also, someone in the comments let me know what the point of okra is. The next step to getting this curation system up and running is to set up a folder on your computer called To Prep. In Rekordbox, you can browse to this folder and then add it as a shortcut for easy access. Do that by opening the Shortcuts panel with the right-facing arrow and dragging the folder in. This requires a bit of discipline, but you need to set a rule for yourself where you won't add any more tracks to that folder until you process what's in there currently. And remember, process can also mean deciding not to add it to your library at all. I like to limit this folder to no more than about 50 tracks. A nice side effect of this is it almost does your curation for you. If there's a new track you really want to add but that folder's full, it forces you to process a track or get rid of one. Step 1 is going to be to go through this to-organized playlist, sort by date added, and then kill anything that was older than 2 months. Okay, it's actually everything. One of the other downsides of a large library is everything takes absolutely ages. Now, how can Wolf make sure that those new tracks he's adding to his library actually see the light of day and stop him playing the same old shit over and over? To do this, I recommend setting up a new intelligent playlist. We're going to add a rule that has date added in the last 2 months. And then we'll add another rule, which has DJ play count of 0. I'll call this one New Bangers. I mean, calling Rekordbox samples bangers might be a bit of a stretch. I think because I nuked that whole to-organized playlist, we might have to expand this 2-month time frame a bit. Let's change it to 6. Alright, that's 163 tracks. That's pretty good to get going with. Then during your set, make sure to dip into this playlist once or twice to make sure those new tunes are adding value to your sets. One last thing, Wolf, please get rid of these 32 kilobyte a second tracks. We're not DJing Nokia ringtones here. Now this video is something I'd wanted to do for a long time, but it is a lot of work to pull together. So do me a favour and pop a thumbs up or leave a comment if you're finding it useful. The middle of our roast sandwich today, the filling if you will, is Xander, and they're having trouble with, well, basically everything. Setting consistent cue points, creating a tagging system that works for me on the fly when I need to pivot and that allows me to curate playlists fast instead of spending hours on them to create the mood I want. Are you okay, mate? Do I need to send someone to check on you? Let's focus in on just one of these, how to curate better playlists faster. That sits in step 4 of the system, creativity. This is actually a topic I spoke about in a recent newsletter, so I've got some thoughts here. Tags are probably one of the most useful ways of creating playlists faster, so let's see what Xander's got going on. On first look, it looks like Xander's more of an emotional tagger, which is a polite way of saying he organises his library like a Pinterest board. We've got a reminds me of group here with a bunch of names and a weird thing about hot meals. At first I thought this was a list of ex-girlfriends, so I reached out to Xander to find out what the deal was. He said they're artists he associates particular vibes with. That's quite an interesting way of thinking about your music. I might start tagging my neuro with Janet, my neighbour, because it makes me want to punch something. But it's not that helpful for developing your own sound or pulling together playlists quickly and easily. Taking one example, Xander says he associates this Clio tag with emotionally driven music. That's a pretty vague tag, so I think we can get more specific to make this tag group more useful. What I'd suggest here is to rename this tag group to be something more around vibes or feelings. Then I'll name these randos to stuff like melancholy, uplifting, I guess this one's hungry, sappy, and depressing. These can be built out or added to over time. We've also got a bit of confliction in the tagging in this group that Xander's called feeling. It looks like he's conflating track purpose like opener or closer with more feeling-based stuff. Let's move dark, upbeat and emotional into the feeling group we just created. And then rename this tag group as purpose. Openers and closers is fine, but maybe let's add mid-set as well. And then we'll get rid of these. Xander's also got this remixes tag group. For me, this is one of those tags that doesn't really help you make any decisions. It's sort of like labeling all the stuff in your fridge food. Think about it like this. You just played a killer track and you're looking for the next follow-up. I guarantee no DJ has ever said, what I need now is a remix. Another big issue in Xander's library that's probably slowing him down is he's only using intelligent playlists to capture one tag at a time. For example, he's got this 610, Clio, or hot meal recommendation tags. These would be a lot more powerful if you combine them with other tags at the same time. For example, I'll make a new one that is moody openers. So we'll pull in all tags that contain f***ing depressing and openers. It's a bit of a slim selection at the moment, but you get the idea. I think of it a bit like a pick and mix, where you can use your tag-based intelligent playlist to quickly find related tracks without having to manually trawl through your entire library. You can then dip into these playlists to quickly build up a set. Xander's also missing any robust tagging of genre. He's got a few here and there, but overall there's a lot missing. Xander did tell me they'd actually fix this since sending me their library, but that's like saying you got the answers right after you failed your exam, so I'm going to roast them anyway. Now, genre isn't the be-all and end-all, but it is still a very useful tool to know roughly what a track's about. Think of it a bit more like a power-up for your other tags. So if I have a tag like groovy, I can then combo that with a genre like house to quickly find something related. I personally prefer to use genre as a my tag rather than a metadata field, because then a track can sit in more than one bucket at once. But the genre field is fine as a starting point if you've got nothing there currently. I'm going to see what else we've got in this playlist folder. I wonder what's in archive. Well. You tried to hide that from me, didn't you? Let me just delete that for you. Much better. Last up, we have Julia. And here's what they're struggling with. How to decide what songs to get rid of or deprioritize based on shifting tastes. Basically, Julia has commitment issues. Looking at my 5 library steps again, this one falls into step 5, care. Now this is a really common issue that many DJs face, especially as their library expands or their tastes develop over time. And it's a topic I'm all too familiar with as someone who used to play trance but then moved over into drum and bass. Let's have a poke around Julia's library and see what's going on. This library gives me organisation tingles I haven't felt in 10 years. It's like a finely crafted sock drawer. Looking at the tags, it looks like Julia's already set up a remove tag. For some reason they've put it in the mood group though, so you might want to consider moving that out. Even better, Julia is using an intelligent playlist to pull in automatically any track which have been marked with this tag. And that's something I always recommend for this kind of task. Something that stands out to me though in this library is the sheer amount of tags. Having a lot of tags isn't a bad thing in itself, as long as you actually use them when you DJ. But if we look at the intelligent playlist Julia's set up for instrument, there's a couple in here which don't really have that many tracks in. Strings, for example, has only got 5 tracks. There's a fine balance between efficient and over-engineered, and I think potentially these tags might be overkill. Cutting some prep time that doesn't really add value can free up more time to maintain and care for your library and trim the fluff. But let's circle back to Julia's main issue, actually identifying the track she wants to remove in the first place. There are 2 methods for doing this: static maintenance and live maintenance. So what do I mean by that? Static maintenance is when you go through your library when you're not playing and find and remove duds. Another thing I like to do to identify tracks I'm no longer playing is to look at tracks I added a long time ago, regardless of whether they've been played or not. As always, another intelligent playlist. Call this Dustbuster. We'll look at date added. Is in the range. Let's go 2019 to 2023. The range you put in here will obviously depend how long your DJ library's been going, but anything added over a year is probably a good place to start. This creates a great shortlist to identify when your tastes have changed. Unfortunately, Rekordbox doesn't actually tell you when you last played the track, but I've got a cheeky hack here. Click on the track and then click the obscure is in this playlist dropdown. The stuff you'll be interested to look at is in the histories folder here. For Julia, the last time this track was played looks like it was in August 2024, so this could be an indication that track is no longer fitting in her sets. Live maintenance is where you identify tracks you want to get rid of as you're playing. Maybe the crowd doesn't respond well, or you just can't believe you added the track to your library in the first place. Live maintenance works really well with larger libraries because you're combining the maintenance phase with playing, saving time. There's a few options for keeping notes of the tracks you want to remove as you play. If you're playing on CDJs, in the Browse menu, find the track you want to tag, then press the Tag Track button. You'll see a little marker appear. Towards the end of your set, press the Tag List button again. Press the Menu/Utility button, and from that menu, select Create Playlist, which will save it back to your USB. Then you can sync your USB back to Rekordbox when you get home and clear out the tracks. And if you're on a laptop or controller, you can just add the remove tag as you go. Looking at Julia's new songs playlist and sorting by date added, it looks like she's doing a pretty good job of getting tunes into her library. One thing that will help here though, is the rule that she's got set currently is a manual date. It's showing anything added after 1st of November 2024. That means this playlist is always going to have stuff that's out of date, even if it's been prepared already. Instead, try changing this to is in the last. And then you can set that to 1 or 2 months. Adding new tracks to your library regularly is the best way for the older tracks to start falling off. Otherwise, they'll just stick around like a bad fart. Now, each of the 3 libraries I looked at today was using the color field in different ways. But there's a way to use color for something much more powerful, which will completely change the way you create your playlists. That's why you should watch this video next, where I show you step by step how to set it up and use it in your sets.